Guys, welcome to Unraveled Sessions Live. My guest today, Poetic Rome. Brother, how you been since the last time we spoke? How's everything, man?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
I'm, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just dealing with some stuff, but I'm good. I woke up this morning. That's the way I see it.
God's plan.
Word, word. So last time we spoke, your book hasn't been released yet, but now the book is finally released. So I'll just show it off real quick. If you haven't gotten the book, definitely get the book right
Beautiful.
here. Yeah, bro, I have to ask, man. Like, how did it feel when the book was finally released? Like, you got to walk me through that. How did it feel to know, okay, here it is. It's right there. Like, how did it feel, man?
So the God's honest truth is when the book came out, I went in my backyard, I threw my hands in the sky, and I thanked God because it was such a weight lifted off of my back. Just getting
Mm,
all of the thoughts out of my head and onto paper, and I no longer had to carry the burden of truth anymore. It was just amazing.
mm. Wow. Yeah, so okay, so that's interesting you said that. So what was it about that burden that made you feel like holy crap, like this is finally out there? Like what was the agenda? Like, okay, I'm gonna put this together, I'm gonna print everything out. Like talk walk how did that all look like for you when you was first starting to put all the stuff together? Did you put them in particular orders on purpose? Like walk how did that all look like for you?
So the agenda, honestly, was just to heal because I had gone to the emergency room. I had a severe anxiety attack, and I was suffering from depression. And I've said this many times before, but the doctor asked me, he was like, "Do you do anything that will help you take the ease the pain, ease the burden?" And I said, "Well, I write some poetry." And he was like, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I said, "No." And the doctor encouraged me. He said, "Maybe you should try." So I started writing this book, and one poem led to another poem, led to another poem. But when I started writing, I was extremely angry with a lot of people. So the original book was not very nice. It was hateful, to be honest with you. But then, as time went by and things changed, I rewrote this book like 4 times, to be honest with you.
Mm,
Um, so I would lessen the I would lessen the blow every time. I took out names. I took out um, anything that would identify anyone, anyone that would incriminate anyone, if you will. I really pick and chose my words. There's no he, she. It's all they, them. So it's even a gender neutral book. You know what I mean? So I really didn't want anyone being outed because I was trying to heal myself.
mm,
So what I did was I wrote whatever, basically whatever came to mind. Like it was anything that ever hurt me inside that I'd been carrying for years and years. Because, like I said, in our family, it was forgive and forget it ever happened. What happens in the house stays in the house, and that's the way we were raised. But yeah, you can forgive, but you never forget. All these things are like stored in the back of your mind, and that's what happened. I was storing and storing. It's like I equate it to like if you're going up the hill with a backpack, and every time something bad happens, you throw it in your backpack. By the time you get to the top of that mountain, your backpack is running over. You know what I mean? And that's the way my mind was. It was just running over to the point where I almost had a heart attack and almost died. So
wow. Okay, no, that's a lot to take in. That's why I'm just like, holy shit, man. Wow. Wow. So you say you wrote this book 4 times. So I wanted to ask you, like, how long, like, what was the duration of this book? Like, how long did it take you to write this book? And was this pieces that you had where it was like, okay, like I had wrote this a long time ago and put them in there, or was it just you sat down one day and just started writing things down right on the fly?
this book was 9 years in the making, and it was definitely not anything I had. So here's the guy's honest truth. I had sat down before and tried to write a book, and I had hundreds of poems, miscellaneous poems written, and told someone, I was like, yo, I got all these poems written. I think I'm ready to launch this book. And they said, that's awesome. Who's your target audience? And I said,
Mm.
crap. I have a bunch of randomness. I don't have a target audience. So with this book, it was, I sat down and I was like, let me get everything off my chest. So now I have one poem that's about family. I've got another poem that's about family. I've got another poem about family, and I'm like, let me just keep this going. Let me just keep writing about and it just turned into, like I said, anything that ever bothered me, anything that was other hindered my performance. You know, on the outside I look like everything's all right, but on the inside I'm dying. You know what I mean? Like the pain is there. You can see it in my eyes. You just don't know what it is, and it was a lot to carry.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So from what you're telling me, it seems like okay. So this is just 9 years, but okay, I get what you're saying. The target audience, the fact that's interesting. And I wanted to ask, so as far as like just the pieces itself, hold on, how do I word this? So like what? So wait, but not all these pieces were pieces you had already. This was like you just wrote them over time, right? That's what you're
Correct.
saying.
So
Okay.
I actually, this entire book was written while I was at work. To be honest with you,
Mm.
I was driving a forklift, and I would drive around with a pile of post-it notes. And anytime something came in my mind, I wrote it down, and I wrote it down, and I wrote it down. And I would start like a poem at work, and then finish it when I got home. And then and it happened day after day after day. Sometimes I wrote an entire poem throughout the entire day, and then
Mm.
there were other instances where I took what I wrote yesterday, what I wrote today, I put those together, and I was like, oh, this works together too. It's like poetry to me is like a labyrinth. It's like a puzzle. I piece it together and I move things around, and this looks better here, this looks better here. Maybe I take this out, use it somewhere else. And so, yeah, the entire book was written while I was driving my fork truck around at work using post-it notes.
Wow, man, the magic of words, man. That's wow, that's incredible. That really is. And but just okay, so once you had all the pieces together and okay, it's time to so I'm assuming like you typed everything up, like the whole manuscript. Like how long did that take as far as the manuscript and how did you know how many pages you wanted it to be? Like how did that one look like for you?
So here's the thing, not knowing what a book is supposed to look like, I assumed that it had to be huge. Like I needed to have 400 pages. That was my goal. Um, Now I know that it didn't have to be what it is. I'm happy it is, but even when I presented it to the first publishing company, they wanted to split it in half. They wanted TAP to be 2 books, and I was adamant. I was like, no, this is the first half of my story. I need to keep it all together. But they wanted to split it up into 2 different books.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Now, okay, so it all makes sense now. Okay, that makes sense. And I wanted to ask you about the best book award finalist. Like, how does that come to play? That's interesting as well.
Um, I entered the book into the competition, and I let it go. That's
Wow.
a couple months later, they sent me an email saying that I was a finalist, and I was happy that I was a finalist, but at the same time, I was pissed that I was a finalist because I honestly feel like I wrote the best poetry book out there, and I've said that before, and I'll say it 1,000 times that Tapped is like unlike anything you've ever read. It's 200 plus rap songs in a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was happy with the note the that they had recognized the book, but I felt like it was the best book out there.
No, I feel you on that, especially because I look at it as okay, this is the amount of work that you put into this, is pretty much what it came down to. I spent so many hours of pretty much just anguish and hurt and being pissed off. And again, you wrote this 4 times and decided to make, you know, I'm making a gender neutral book. Like, just writing a book itself is not an easy task. And like I said, my hands off to you, because I don't think I would have been able to write a book like as powerful as
Well,
this one. I wanted to ask
the
you about yeah.
the thing about it is, when you write poetry, I'm a rhymer. I love to rhyme. I'm influenced by, like I said, the rap culture. So I had written all these poems, and then I had to go back and change them, but I still had to keep the rhymes. I had to keep the cohesiveness. I had to keep it flowing like a river. That was the most difficult part, because I'm taking out, and it's like, okay, now what do I replace it with? It's got to rhyme. It's got to make sense. And like I said, I did that 4 times.
Okay. And because I'm referring back to the last interview we did. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe you told me part of that was also because your family, right? Like, you
Mhm.
didn't want to get sued or something like that. If
Uh,
I'm not mistaken.
Before the book was ever, before I even put pen to paper, my family threatened to sue me. Yeah. And they didn't tell
Okay.
me directly. I was told through another family member, like, yo, these people are talking about suing. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, my family, why would you sue me? And the other thing is, like, a lot of the book were like the funny stuff the things that I find funny, it's not really humorous, but like the poverty stuff. We would joke about that stuff at cookouts. Like, nothing was like, yeah, it was a secret to the outside world, but in our family, everything that I wrote about is common knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like I surprised anyone.
Mm.
I laid it all out there as kindly as I could while healing. And like I said, whenever I wrote something, I was like, wow, that felt good. Wow, you know what I mean? Especially like the how do I say this? The more I attacked somebody without physically or verbally attacking somebody, made me feel like I was on top of the world, because I didn't harm anyone, but I got it out. So everything I needed to say, everything I wanted to say, everything that I ever held in and didn't say is in this book. And that's what makes
Mm.
it all like, that's what makes it feel good. You know what I mean? Like, it's poetic word slaughter, because I slaughtered everybody. And it's kind of like that. What is the Irish homage is like telling people to go fuck themselves in such a way that they enjoy the trip. That's
Mm.
the way that I wrote this book. It's a big F you to everybody, but enjoy the trip.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And yeah, I wanted to ask you about the cover too. Like, you designed this cover yourself and everything?
Correct.
And how long did this
So,
take to do? Like because here's the thing too. Because again, I've never published a book, so this is what another thing I'm asking too. Like, how do you know? Okay, like what size? Like, how do you know how the structure of the book's gonna look and everything like that? Like, walk me through the
so
cover and all that.
the concept, the idea, and all that is mine. The artwork was originally drawn by an artist by the name of Jason Boucher. He's a good friend of mine. He drew the concept, and then I brought that to a graphic designer who's another friend of mine named Chris Cruz, and the final outcome that you see of me with the bloody hands and all that, that was hers. Um, the book, the second book that you have, because I republished, I did that by myself. I changed everything in Photoshop and re-released it. So there were 2 different versions of the cover. And basically, I've never had a sip of alcohol in my life. I come from a family of addiction, and I always knew that I didn't want to end up in any sort of way under the influence or out of control. I never want to be out of control, and I was afraid. Nobody knows this, but the cover is influenced by my biggest fear in life, and my biggest fear is that I would wake up like the cover of Tap, covered in someone else's blood, and not have any idea whose or why. But you know what I mean. So that's the reason for the cover of the book. That's my biggest fear come to life.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Whew, okay. No, because that's deep what you're saying, and it's so true because, like I said, yeah, like even because I look, like I said, because I look at the tree like, okay, yeah, like this is the root of whatever that is that I'm dealing with. So I chopped it down, but it's like, okay, but the blood and the pain that I dealt with is in my hand. So now what do I do with it?
Mhm.
Type situation. And then it's like, okay, so I dealt with it. So what do I do now? And it's like, I like the symbolism behind it because there's so many directions you can take this. And I think, like I said, my hands off to you for that because that's not easy to do. And so from my understanding, from what you're telling me, pretty much this was like a journal of stuff that you wrote over time. And it's, okay, let's put this together. But like, so
Absolutely.
describe, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
That's absolutely. That's exactly what it was. It was like a journal based on everything that I had been through, that I never said out loud.
Wow. Wow. No, and that's not easy. Like to keep like having suppressed feelings like that and then to just okay, it's out. But see, here's the powerful thing about it. You're doing this like, okay, I'm gonna put it out in the world. I didn't mention no names, I didn't mention no nothing, but this is the raw emotion that
Right.
came from you. And now you're gonna share it to somebody. Because I'm looking at it as like, hey, well, this is stuff that maybe somebody else might be related to, and they just didn't have the words to say. So when they see your book, it's like, wow, this guy survived it. Like he
You'd be
survived the storm.
surprised because since I've published the book, people like even people that I went to high school contacted me with, and they were like, "I had no idea that you went through that, but I also went through that." And me looking at them, I was like, "But your life was perfect." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but so was yours. No, mine wasn't. Neither was yours. Okay, what a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe we're having this conversation. I've also gotten how I've helped so many people, because they could relate to one or more of the stories in the book that I've been through. And the other thing is, I was surprised that like how many people actually did go through the same thing I did. When Kendrick Lamar released that line, "I remember syrup sandwiches," I was like, dude, that's in my book. You know what I mean? Like I had already written it when he released that.
Mm, yo, isn't that crazy though? Like how something like, wow.
And there was even one instance when Eminem had just released a new album, and I was at the job site. I had been writing. I had to change one of my poems because I had written not the exact same thing that was in his song, but damn near identical. Where he was talking about how do I say, it was, dang, I'm trying to remember. I forget what it was, but something that Eminem had written was like damn near identical to something that I had wrote. And I was like, holy crap, I can't use it because it's in his song.
Mm,
So
okay.
I had to go back and change one of my poems to make it different than his.
Wow. 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 That's wow. Whew. No, that makes sense what you say. Yeah, absolutely. I did want to ask you about there's one particular piece, Poetic Suicide. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that because that was a very interesting piece. Also, I wanted to ask if you wanted to read the piece and then we can discuss it as well.
What was it? Poetic suicide?
Yeah, it's page 204. If you're
I'm glad you have the
just
page.
joining us, yeah,
Oh,
if you're
okay.
just joining us, yeah, my bad, sorry.
No, you could go ahead.
Oh, okay, no, yeah, because I can't really see on my screen here, but I have to go based on the other phone. But yeah, yeah. So if you're just joining us, we're highlighting Poetic Rome's book. We did a part one was it last year? Last year, and he hasn't released the book yet. Now that the book's actually released, I wanted to highlight the book and talk more about the book and go into details. Definitely check it out. Like I said, he's talking about real life stuff here that a lot of people don't even talk about. And I think, again, like, my hands off to you, because it's not easy to like release all that. And I think that's what makes it more even beautiful. The fact that when people you haven't spoken to in a long time came across the book and they say, "Hey, I didn't know you went through that," and then they tell you that they went through a similar experience. But the fact that I think what I like about the book and what I like about the concept of everything you're talking about is the fact that this could open up a conversation that not a lot of people are comfortable talking about, because sometimes, like, I always believe in this. I believe in the fact that this is a part of your life, this is part of your story, that we don't know who needs to hear the story. So the fact that that must have taken a lot out of you to do this and to finally release it. Again, like, not everybody can do that. So this is, again, congratulations on this, because this is
Yeah,
not easy.
the thing is, like, I've read this book a million times, and like, I can't believe that I wrote it, and that's not me tooting my own horn. It's the poetry is that good, the rhymes are that good that I would not have released it if everything didn't flow like a river, and that's why I said that's why I put so much time. 9 years into a book is a long time, I know, but I wanted to make sure that it was something that once you picked up, you weren't going to put down. And
Mm.
a lot of people tell me, like, I read this in 2 days. Every time I put it down, I picked it back up. I've got a friend right now at work. He and his daughter are both reading it. So like, she takes it while he's at work. He's reading it. He gets home. He takes it back from her, and they're reading the book at the same time.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome, bro. Bro, no, again, congratulations on this, man. You definitely deserve it, man. For real, man.
I
That,
appreciate that.
like you were saying earlier, that weight being lifted off your shoulder, that's a lot, man. And that's what's up, man. I hope one day I get to do that too. Finally read something, like, write something and just like release it all there. Because sometimes, like, for me, I feel like it's one thing to always write pieces and, okay, I could put them together and I could do all this stuff. But you're talking about a whole different level of that, because this is stuff that you wrote on the fly and everything. And this was based on something that your therapist had recommended to you. Because, yeah, you wrote pieces all the time, but your therapist is saying, no, why don't you write about those things? And the fact that, again, like, because that's something very personal you're talking about, like really raw emotion, and to decide to just say, you know what, let's put it all together, like that takes a lot. That's not easy, because anyone can put pieces together. Okay, that's great, but you're talking about a whole different situation, a whole different thing where, okay, no, this is something I wrote for years, just put them together, and okay, this is a brand new thing. This is what I'm putting together. It's pretty much a journal of the situation that's happened while I was happening, or situations that I put together while I was thinking of, okay, whatever I felt, just wrote it all down, put them together. But again, like, this is a perfect example of raw emotion. So again, like, man's all to you
Well,
for that, because that is not
the thing
easy.
about it is, picture, like, if you've got secrets. Everybody's got secrets. Let's talk about secrets. You're holding your secrets. You're holding your secrets. You're holding your secrets. You bury them in the back of your head to a point where it's like, I never want to think about that again. And for the long time, you forget. You forget that it ever happened. Now try going back into your brain and digging through all those secrets, pulling them from the back to the front, and then writing about it. The pain that I endured and put myself through writing this stuff was excruciating. I cried more than I've ever cried while writing this book. And
Mm.
it's like, at times it was like, why are you doing this? Why are you putting yourself through this? And it was because I had to finish. I had to see it through. I had to get it all out, no matter how bad it hurt, no matter, you know what I mean? Like, not at anybody's expense. And because, like I said, I changed, there's no names, there's nobody, there's no breadcrumbs. It was just all about healing. How do I heal myself? And this is what it was.
Wow, wow. And to think too, like, what was meant for healing ended up becoming a bigger thing, a bigger picture, a bigger puzzle of things that you put together. So yeah, no, amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, it was quite the journey, to be honest with you. Like,
No, no doubt, man.
my sister can't even read the book. She'll tell you, she's like, I lived it. I don't need to read it, but she won't put herself through it.
Oh wow. Wow. No, no, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to absorb everything you're saying because it's like it's just, again, it's just so real, you know? And it's like, again, thank you for doing this because again, like there's people who need to know, you know, like, because like I said, and I like the fact that you said, you know what, you didn't mention no names, you didn't do any of the stuff. So whoever reads this book, they could really be like, wow, like I am this person. Like this is
Mhm.
what I've been through. And the fact that you can do that and put that into paper,
Yeah,
again,
like
like,
when I had originally written the book, there was a lot of he, she, and to be honest with you, there was a lot of I. I removed myself from the book. So now when you read the book and it says and it talks about a boy and his journey, that could be anybody. It could be you, it could be me, it could be the person across the street. I took myself out so that you'd have the experience of relatability. And a lot of people that have read it have like, oh my god, like I can't believe this poem, that poem, I can't believe this story or that story. I related so much. Like I had a woman at work was reading my book. She gave me the book back. She was like crying. She's like, I can't do it. She's like, it's
wow,
too relatable.
wow, look at that.
Hmm.
No, no doubt, no doubt. All right, so I wanted to talk about poetic suicide, which is on page 204. Oh, and the book I have is on page 204. And I wanted to ask you about it. I guess I wanted you to read it first, and then we can talk about the piece.
Okay. It's crazy because I've never read this one out loud. I don't think I've yeah, I've never read this one out loud, so this will be interesting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, Page 204, Tapped In and Rooted, Poetic Suicide. Right in the context of this book nearly killed me. Rome. Seems like lately I'm always fighting back these stress-filled tears. Think to yourself for a moment. How many times in your life have you forced yourself to face all of your deepest and darkest fears? As I'd been wading my way through once purposely buried memories, it finally caught up with me, reliving all those troublesome years. May 5th, 2015. Boys' night out at the Red Sox game, where I had so much personal anguish on my mind. On that beautiful night inside of Fenway Park, God slowly bestowed upon me sign after sign. As my body started to fail me, I had this gut feeling that it was my time. While I tried to gather my composure, my thoughts switched gears, and you became the top thing on my mind. I struggled to catch my breath. It was a feeling that I never wanted to have to describe. For the first time in my life, I legitimately fear that I am about to die, literally leaning towards the sky. But the fear wasn't for myself, it was for our family. It was for everyone that I'd be forced to leave behind. This wasn't like my occasional thoughts of suicide, because over those I've always had self control. Who'd have thought that writing about my past would take this much of a strenuous toll? I dug to the deepest I'd ever been able, into the most secured and sometimes intimate areas of my soul. As I'm sitting in the stands, there's a slight tingling sensation down my arms to my fingertips. A sudden feeling of pain in the back of my head, my jaw slowly tightening, and I've got a quiver in my lips. Nausea floods my stomach, followed by a sudden dizziness. I'm thinking, I need to eat something, and I need to do it quick. But still, I wait to tell my friend G Dub till a third out, a swing and a miss. I finally stand up from my seat. My knees are weak and shaking. I can't believe I'm going out like this. I force myself to climb the stairs. I'm extremely short of breath, intentionally forcing myself to cough while slowly pacing the aisle, step by wobbly step. I pray to God, please save me. I'm not ready. I'm literally scared to death. Please don't allow me to succumb to my anxiety and stress. I couldn't tell you what I'm looking like, but I know I'm feeling like a complete and utter mess. After standing there for what seemed like an eternity, wrong line. They're only serving alcoholic beverages. By now I'm in a panic. While trying not to become frantic, I run over to the concession stand. I need 2 hot dogs and a drink. She could tell that I'm on the brink, I think, because she hands my food straight over the glass. I'm about to go down right on my ass. I rush around the line and toss the cashier my cash. As I start shoving the dogs in my mouth, my throat closes with every failed attempt. My body's not allowing it to pass, so I quickly open up my Powerade and chug it down the hatch. Now it's the seventh inning stretch. I've got to tell my friends I really need to leave. I'm feeling quite embarrassed, and I don't want them to be peeved, but I do so, knowing obviously what they could see. I begin to walk back to the car, might I add, quite gingerly. Once my head hits the headrest, I pass out, from Boston to Dudley. The next day, I woke in my and made my maid at work, knowing that my fiance was setting up a visit to my PCP. Around 10 a.m., I received a phone call. She's talking quite frantically. You need to go to the ER right now to be seen. They think you had a heart attack. You need to take this seriously. The ambulance arrived at my work, and a ride I'd hoped I'd never see.
Mm, wow. Wow. So pretty much you were having a heart attack, it sounds like, and you didn't even understand what was going on. The survive, you know what's crazy too, because I'm you're reading, I'm visualizing the whole thing. You're at a Boston Red Sox game and trying to have a good time. You're throwing your cash, but it's like, what is going on? One thing I've always learned, and this is something my sister told me, and she said sometimes when your body tells you to do something, you should listen to it because if you
Right.
don't, it'll do it for you.
hmm
And
Well,
crazy.
that was in the middle of writing the book, so that's what had happened. Like bringing back all these memories and all the pain and all the things that we'd endured. I made myself sick.
Mm,
I had a panic attack in Fenway Park.
wow. So it seems like while you were writing the book, the more you wrote, the more stuff that was being released, and the more that was stuff being released, the more it was becoming some kind of a trauma response in a way that you like, okay, like I didn't understand where all this was coming from. Like I knew this is what
hmm
I was feeling, but where did this like this craziness coming from? And as we can tell now, obviously this is just from writing the book from all these years, writing everything down, writing it down. So what was it about that moment that the whole ER thing? And I wanted to ask you, what was it about that? Did something there make you realize a lot of things? Like talk to me about that.
No, I think honestly, I've developed this strange thing about crowds. Um, I just can't be around too many people anymore. And I
Mm.
don't know if it's something that happened in age or something that happened since writing this book, but I don't trust too many people anymore. And I think it's got to do with the trust, and I don't know, just being around all those people and the lights and the cameras and you know what I mean? Like it just affected me really bad. Um, Even after the book was published, I went to a concert with my son. I took him to see Slipknot. Had to leave early. Same thing.
Wow. So wow. You know what's crazy because I know with me, because even when I was like a kid growing up and I was in school, I was always in a small class. But something I told my wife was at times I don't mind being in a crowd, but when the crowd is too big, I get very uncomfortable and
hmm
I kind of shut down. Like for example, there's been a few times that me and my wife would go to the park to take my son so he could play around. So my wife's doing her thing. Like when there's too much kids, when there's too much going on, I shut down. Like I sit
Right.
down and I'm just like isolating myself like that. And I always wonder like what was it about that made me like this? And I always wonder, could it be maybe there's like something outside of the comfort zone that maybe I'm not even aware of that somehow made me this way? Because I don't mind being with a group of people, but when the group is too much, I get very uncomfortable. I'll give you a perfect example. When I did my first open mic in Bayonne last year in October, first of all, I didn't think a lot of people were gonna come. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought maybe five, six maximum. That's just I don't know. I just have that low self-esteem. Like, nah, no one's really gonna come out of their way over here. And it was like a good 20, 30 people. I was like, okay, hold up. Like, because I was used to this like years ago. Like, I would hang out with my friends and I would go to a bar. But there were times like even when it was too crowded, I would get uncomfortable. But it wasn't in that way that I was shutting down. But lately, it seems like the last recent years, I was shut down or I would kind of be very like, okay, what's going on? But yeah, when last year, great show and everything, but I was so uncomfortable. And I even told my wife, I said, babe, I ended up drinking like a couple of beers. I'm good after that. But it's like there was this uncomfortability with so many people, and I wonder what that is. So everything you just said, I kind of go through. I mean, I didn't go through it in that way where I was having this anxiety attack, but it was more like I'll shut down to a point where it feels like I'm about to have that, but nothing actually comes out. I don't know if that
Right.
made
Right.
sense.
No, I get it. I've developed this weird thing where my entire insides feel like they're on fire. Like, and
Mm.
that's how I know, okay, here it comes. Like, it'll start in my toes and it'll run up my body, and it's like I'm burning up on the inside. It's the weirdest thing. I've never been through this before, but it's like developed since writing this book.
Wow. So so writing this book, so it seems like in a way when you were writing this book, it also brought awareness to you as well, right? Because yeah, like I have all these suppressed feelings, but in the process of writing the book and getting all these suppressed feelings out, it seemed like you became aware of certain things that you probably never dealt with before. And I think it's like you said too, I think is the weight of the suppression, because there's the suppression, but then there's the weight of it. So now when little by little the weight's coming out, it's kind of like, oh crap, like it should be a peaceful feeling, but something is making me feel uncomfortable. I don't know what it is, but it's making me feel this thing. So I like to think that the amount of crowded people that's around, if I can use it in a metaphoric way, I feel like that's how the suppression feels like sometimes. Like as if you're in a
Mm.
room crowded with people. Like I guess you could say kind of like like Jesus in the Last Supper, because they were crowded all over him when he was having that Last Supper. And I wonder if that's kind of how it feels like, everybody on top of each other. Is that what our suppressed feelings look like? And maybe that's why I felt that way. Again, like this is just, I'm being a little metaphoric about it, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
I, I get it. It's tough because it's like I said, I've never felt this way before, and it's like I think, thank God I wrote this book as an adult because the more I remembered, the more I pieced things together, the more things made sense, and the more things made sense, it was like, oh wow, that's what really happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are things in this book that I divulge, like my, from my first words to finding out that I had a sister that we didn't know we had, to yeah, like so many so many things, like finding out that an individual in our family, you know, they weren't eating powdered donuts in the bathroom because there were no donuts in the house. But at the time, you know, hey, you know, their nose is covered in powdered donut. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, when things start to make sense, that's when it really got like, oh my God, I can't, you know what I mean?
Mm. So, wow. No, and I get that. Yeah. Oh my God. Life is just crazy, right? Because there's no real book on it, right? Like when you're going through depression or anxiety or just going through a lot of uncomfortable emotions, especially if it's something you never experienced before, but all of a sudden you start feeling it. Like there's no book on it that shows you the way. It's like we kind of have to navigate ourselves. And then, like you said, now how can I put this into something like this so I can share it, you know? And it's
Right.
like I said before, there's no book on this. And this is not stuff they teach you in school. Like they can say whatever the hell they want in psychology class, but they never really teach this stuff. You know, and it's
Well, that's the
like,
thing. Like,
oh,
when I was writing this book, I was 100% winging it. Like, even poetry, I call myself a poet, but like, I don't have any poetry training. I just did it. You know what I mean? Like, I put together words that rhyme. I told a story. Uh, they said I needed a manuscript, so I created a manuscript. I've never written a manuscript in my life. Is this a manuscript? Sure. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, and then I did the whole querying, and I just ended up getting lucky with finding a publisher. But like, I don't know. I don't know my ass from my elbow when it comes to being in this world of authors and poetry, writing books, and all that.
no, that makes sense. See, because I don't consider myself a poet. I just consider I'm just a guy who writes things down, and here, this is what it is. That's just me. This is how I see it. I mean, I'm a guy who writes thoughts down, and then it just becomes like this
Right.
piece, I guess. But that's just my opinion on it, honestly. So I want to talk more about when you finally finished it. Okay, you have the manuscript, you got the cover and everything. So talk to me about the moment. Okay, here, I'm going to submit this. Everything is here. There's the final draft. What is going through your mind before you decided? Like not the actual publishing, but right before you're about to do the submission. Here, this is what it is. Can you walk me what was going through your mind when you finally had everything complete?
Doubt a lot because I have OCD, which I've been battling, which I think I finally got a grasp of. I've been doing my best to change my rituals and things like that purposely to I want to say better myself, but just I don't want to have it. So I've been trying to not to. So I was afraid to release the book because it was all I'd known for 9 years. Like, what are you doing? I'm writing a book. What are you doing? I'm writing a book. What are you doing? I'm writing a book. What do I do when I'm not writing a book? You know what I mean? And so that from that aspect, I was afraid to release it. And the other thing was I was scared of what people would say because
Mm.
my biggest thing is I've always worried about my peers, or what others would think of me, and I knew the content. Nobody knew the content but myself and my sister. So with that said, like, how do you tell the world that you've been molested as a child? How do you tell the world that you were abused? How do you tell the world that you grew up without food for a good part of your life? You know what I mean? Like that you struggled with wanting to be alive. You know what I mean? Like, what are people gonna think? Am I a coward? Am I a quitter? Am I less than what everyone thinks I already am? Like, I've built a reputation of myself of being strong, athletic. You know what I mean? One of the most popular kids in school. Like, I worked my ass off to portray an image that was about to be squandered.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that's what I was feeling before sending in the manuscript was like, I'm about to blow the roof off this whole thing.
Wow. Wow. Damn. Oh man. So yeah, no, and that makes sense what you said too, because there is all that stuff you think about, right? Like it's funny to think like, okay, like this is how I think about when I write a piece and then I put it on Instagram. Okay, now just imagine a whole bunch of them in pretty much one book like this.
Hmm.
And this is pretty much 9 years of my life, pretty much is what this
Yeah,
is. Let's be real. This is nine
yeah,
years of so many things. And it's true because one thing I've learned about life, I don't think there really is a wrong and a right way to tell somebody you've been molested or I've been abused or I struggle with my identity or whatever it is, right? I don't think there's a real right and a wrong way to talk about those things, but just to talk about them. And sometimes it's just as raw as it gets. And again, this is something that a lot, like I always have this thing like, okay, everybody likes the idea. Okay, I want to have a book just to have a book, but the responsibility of writing all this stuff onto this book in order for you to release your pieces to like, but again, yeah, there are those thoughts you go through because let's be real, I don't know what people are gonna think of me. What if people start looking at me differently? Because yeah, like even I think about that. Okay, I'm a guy who believes in Jesus Christ, but I this is like what you see is what you get. But then there's that, like you said, that thing in the back of my head that now I start talking about it. What are you gonna think? Oh, wait, so maybe he's not that man of God that people think you are, or whatever the case might be. And it's just that struggle is real. That identity is real, and it's like if it gets squandered, then what? Does that tell me I wrote this for nothing, or does that tell me, you know what, I'm gonna release it anyway because again, there's somebody out there that could resonate with that. So yeah, I definitely understand that. That
yeah.
is real. That is definitely
And
real.
the thing about it is, when you think about this, I started writing this book 9 years ago, before it became popular to share your feelings. Like, I'm a male sharing my feelings. When I started writing this book, that wasn't cool. Now it's kind of trendy for men to be sharing their feelings and letting everyone know their business. Da 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 da. I was doing it when it wasn't.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
No,
So that was a huge hurdle to climb over.
no, I definitely understand that. Yeah, 'cause I mean, I'm gonna be 39 in July, and I know exactly what you're talking about because yeah, because I grew up at a time too where we had to keep things on the hush hush, and we were allowed to talk about those things. It's true because they're like, oh, especially me coming from Puerto Rican family, yeah, big, strong, and Puerto Rican family, yeah, you're Hispanic, you're not a man if you start crying all this other stuff. And it's true because a lot of my stuff too that I wrote darker stuff when I was younger, which I haven't even no one's ever seen it on Instagram at all, actually. And it's like, damn, like you said, this was even for me too, like 2004, 2005. That was around a time where I couldn't really share this with anyone because I was embarrassed that
Hmm.
people would think, oh, what are you, gay or something? Like people,
Right.
that's around the time I lived in. And it's interesting how in recent years we've come to that point where little things are more acceptable. I know for me, I feel like it wasn't until Instagram poetry community, it wasn't until then, maybe 2019, 2020, that's when I was comfortable with being vulnerable, right? But I feel like I didn't want to be too vulnerable either, but I wanted to be vulnerable, I can't even talk, vulnerable enough where when people hear it, it's like, oh yeah, I do resonate with that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's like I had people making fun of me, even family members, like write me a poem, poet. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, is
Wow.
that supposed to hurt me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing what feels good. I'm doing what makes me happy. I've been an athlete my whole life, and the basketball court was my poetry.
Mm.
Like whenever I needed to go somewhere, or if I was pissed, or if I needed to get it out, I would go to the basketball court. You know what I mean? And for years, I that was my sanctuary. But now I'm older. Now I'm 48 now. Um, so it's like I don't have basketball anymore. What do I do? That's when I was like, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. So now I write instead of the court.
Wow. Wow. No, and my hands off to you for that because again, that's not easy. Especially this book was not easy for you to put together, and like I said, the fact like now it's finally out in the open. It's finally there. Like even when we all pass on, let's be honest, 'cause we're gonna die one day. Like maybe hopefully we're 105 years old, something where we're
Right, right.
dying. But even after we're long gone, this book will always be around. People get to see this, like, oh man, I wish I would have known this guy. But the resonation behind this, again, this is very important. And to me, this is a part of your legacy now. This is a part of your life now. And it's like, so you said earlier in the beginning where, okay, when it was published, okay, like you put your hands up, you were thanking God. So talk to me about that. What was it about that sign of relief? Like talk to me about that.
Because I honestly felt like once Tap was published, it's almost like I don't have to carry that anymore. It's on paper. You can read it. So like I don't have to. It doesn't have to stay up here because now it's out there. So now I don't even have to worry about it. I don't even have to stress it. I don't even have to think about it because if I need it, it's on paper. You know what I mean? It's on wax. I've done it. I've gotten it all out. Everything I need to say, everything I felt I needed to share, is on paper. I don't have to carry it anymore. It's like emptying your computer or emptying your phone. You know what I mean? Like I don't need these pictures anymore because I put them on the hard drive. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And that's the
mm,
way it felt. And it was like such a relief. Like the weight lifted off my back. Like it hurt to carry some of the things that I held in. Like I said, nobody in my family knew that I had been a miss miss I don't want to say mistouched, but mistouched as a child. You know what I mean? Nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody. I never told anybody until Tapped. And that stemmed from a family member telling another family, well, if he's going to air out all our laundry, I hope he's going to air out his too. And I said, enough
Mm.
said.
Wow.
I'll do it. You know what I mean? I'll tell you everything. If that's what's gonna help you feel more comfortable about me healing, let's all heal. Let's heal together. It didn't work out that way because they all abandoned me. But it, it served its purpose for me. But
Amen.
but yeah, my family disowned me. I had one family member in particular go right for me, and I wasn't chosen. So
Wow. Like I always believe in, you know what, the real, because me and my cousin, we always talk about this thing like family is not always blood. There's this thing that say, you know how they say blood's thicker than water, but sometimes blood isn't always thicker than water. And
yeah,
I always been a believer of, family is, what you make it, right? So the people who are around you are the ones who are closest to you. That's who you consider family, right? So
right.
even though me and my
Agreed.
cousin were cousins, biology says we're cousin, but I look at him like, oh, this is my brother. Not my little
Right.
brother or my older. No, he's my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is my
Yeah.
brother.
Do me a favor. Flip your book over and read the bottom statement.
Wait, this one.
Yep. Yep. Read that.
I've come to the sad realization that the family that one builds is stronger than the family that one has handed. As we acquire the ones that appreciate us and let go of all those that have taken us for granted. Amen.
Amen. Right.
Amen.
Amen. It's like we, and I've always said this. Like people would always tell me, like, "That's your family. That's your family. Your family is the most important." It's like I didn't choose them. Why do I have to be so invested in something that gives me nothing in return, or
Hmm.
is so toxic? Why do I got to be a part of the toxicity? Why can't I
Yeah.
not be a part of this family? You know what I mean? Like, but it was always family first, family first. That's your mom. That's your dad. Those are your brothers. That's your siblings. It's like I didn't choose them, and they weren't, and some people weren't good to me. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm supposed to be respectful and caring and loving to people that treat me like shit.
Nah, man. And I'm with you on that one because even with me, like, it's funny because my friend Desiree, I used to hang out with years ago. She used to say, "Oh, just because they're family doesn't mean you gotta freaking put up with them." Like she cut a lot of people off her family, and at that time, I didn't understand what I understood now. And it's like, and I feel like you even saying that and us having this particular conversation is just confirmation that hey, it's okay if we don't get along. It's okay if I'm not like if my blood family's not always around. Like I'm okay with that, right? Like say
Mm-hmm.
do me and my cousin, right? Like where like to us, we're like we look at you like he's my best friend. That's my brother. That's my best friend. I don't care what biology says. That's family to me. Family is the people who are closest to you. Like in the things of God, they say, the church is not the four walls. It's we are the church, and the people who are part of your church who
Right.
come through for you are the people part of your church. So I feel like in that same way, you're your own journey. Yeah, and family is what you make it. I really believe in that. But isn't it
Mm-hmm.
crazy how you'll get more support from a stranger than you do with your own people around you? Isn't that crazy
A,
to
a
think?
thousand percent, 1,000%. Like, and I've always said that too. Like, I receive more love from people on the internet than I do people in my personal life, and it's like that's so weird to me because I've invested all this time in personal people, and people online know me better than they do. You know what I mean?
Yo,
And that's so weird to me. I've never. My sister's like, they're not your friends; they're your followers, and I never got it until COVID hit. Once COVID hit, I was like, you know what? She's right.
wow. But even with that, even with your followers, but because for me, I mean, I have followers too, but there's certain people who are followers who I've become friends with. And like even recently when I went to PA, I ended up staying at one of my friends' house, one of my followers who also just happened to become my best friend. It's just like, it's so crazy. Like, I didn't have
Yeah.
this when I was like
Well,
around my actual
the
friends.
thing
I'm
is,
like,
like,
yeah,
I'm
these people
so
are better friends than my actual friend. Like, this is crazy to me
yeah.
to think. Like, wow.
I was so kind that I was naive, and that's my problem is I
Mhm.
think that everybody that I come across is my friend. I call everyone buddy or pal. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not true. Like a lot of people, they don't want to be your friend. They just want to be kind to you. You know what I mean? And like, there is a difference, and I'm learning that. You know,
Yeah.
like we live in a society now where being kind to someone is confused with flirting with someone. So it's like
Oh my.
you can't even be kind to anyone anymore. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, my wife talks about this all the time. Had a little situation happen during like my feature. I'm the kind of guy. I'm 100% transparent. I'll tell you like I told my wife exactly what happened. I said, "While this is happening, I hear you laughing in the background in my head. Like this is how crazy the
mhm.
situation was." And I'm like, "Okay, I could have sworn I told you 3 or 4 times that I'm married and I have a kid. Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
why are you telling me the whole life story? I didn't ask you all that." Thanks
hmm
for your compliment poetry, but no, and even my friend, my best friend Florence, even she explained it to me. She said, "Oh yeah, no, this." I'm like, wait, even in the poetry world, this happens. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what is going on here? Like,
Bro,
this is insane.
let me tell you something. I signed a book to a female friend from high school, and in the book I wrote means everything. I've written that in hundreds of books, but her spouse took that as I was hitting on her wife. They were a lesbian couple. Her spouse took that as I was hitting on her wife through a book that I had signed, and she contacted my fiance at the time and was like, "Look what your look what your fiance's doing," and she laughed because she was like, I told you so. Like you can't be kind to anybody. You can't just writing means everything. Like those two words, I was hitting on her wife. Like
Wow, that's
trying to show you
crazy.
I'm trying to show you my gratitude, like how much it means to me that you would buy my book. Like I still am in awe that people are buying my words. You know what I mean? Like something that I wrote. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I'm making money off of something that I wrote. How crazy is that? You know what I
that's
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Holy,
I bust my ass 40 hours a week for a paycheck and I'm selling my words. You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy to me.
no, I feel you on that. Yeah, it's true. Like even my wife tells me all the time, man, you can't be too kind to everybody. It's so true. And I'm just like, oh man. Like I remember a time where like I'd be lucky if anyone was kind to me, right? But then I'm thinking like, okay, it was so different. And now any little compliment, oh, why you flirting with me? I'm like, no, I'm not flirting with you. I'm just giving you a compliment. Like,
Yeah.
relax. Like it's so crazy now. Like it never
You
used
can't even tell someone that they look nice, they smell nice, they dress nice. You're in the HR, you're out of here.
to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that those days are gone. Chivalry dead. I'll be
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll be kind, but I'm not telling you any. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
You can't even say you look nice. Like what? No. Like oh my
Nope,
god.
you
Like
can't.
craziness to think. Like holy crap, man. But yeah, yeah. It is a
And that's
weird
like,
craziness
and
that we
that's why I
live
said
in.
like my book, like I tried to be as kind as possible to people, and people still took it like I was out of place, out of pocket, out of character.
Yo, that's a lot. That's crazy. Oh my god. So yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But Rome, thank you for doing this interview. This is part two, of course. You can definitely check out
Absolutely.
last season. We went through part one. Brother, thank you for doing this. Congratulations on this book and the
Nah, thank
response
you
you
for
got
having
for this
me.
book. No, absolutely, man. Like anytime I could always highlight anybody. Again, this is an honor and a privilege to do this. I don't do it because I want. I do it because I love doing this. This is my passion, and if I can get people's story out, that's all I really care about. Hold on. Robert Kazi says the sad part about it is people need to hear these things. There are so many who never receive kind words, but the ones with the loudest mouths has ruined it. Yeah,
It's true.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
true.
Oh my
Like
God.
I, I'm the type of person, like I went to the movie theater and there was a gentleman, he couldn't, he was in a wheelchair, he couldn't carry his popcorn and stuff to the friggin' theater. So I go, I grab his popcorn, I grab his drink, I bring him in, I get him to his seat, I do it. I don't say nothing, I leave. My sister's crying because she's like that. She's like, oh, that was so sweet of you. She tells a family member. The family member is like, what did he get in return?
It's not about that. Like I hate be
But
yeah, those are people who
that's the
just
family. That's the family that I was brought into. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said,
yeah.
the thing that I also want to share is like, I had a great upbringing. It wasn't all bad. This book was for me to heal. You know what I mean? I lived the life in the city of Worcester, like ran the streets. Don't come home till the street lights come on. Play with all your friends. You know what I mean? There were a lot of good times. It just so happens that I wrote about the bad. You know
Right.
what I mean?
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And it's just, man, but that's just how it is. Sometimes it's through our pain we learn the most lessons. I believe in that, you
Right.
know. I feel like somebody said one time to me that there's always purpose behind your pain. And I really believe in that. I believe there's a purpose behind that, and there's a reason behind everything we go through. So absolutely, absolutely on that. So yeah. So because we are towards the end of the live, before we end, is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug in? Any last words? Like,
Um,
let me know.
I am working on the sequel to Tapped. It's called Emmanuel's Garden, and
Mm.
it is totally different than the first book. Whereas I've implemented a nice little twist that should I think everyone's gonna love, and it is less story based and more feeling based, since it is based upon life after Emmanuel's death. So
Mm.
it'll be
Wow.
different but great at the same
Amen.
time.
No, amen. So, thank you for sharing your story. Again, like I do this because I love doing this. I don't do it because I feel like, oh, I just want to do it. No, I do it because I love doing this. I love having these conversations. Again, this was not, and people have asked me why I do that. I do it because you know what is, I this was never given to me. And considering the resource that exists here, I say, you know what, let me give back to the poetry community. Because let's be honest, like we all write pieces, but I want to hear the story behind the piece, why you wrote this piece, why did you feel like you had to share that piece, you know? And hey, Emma, what's
Right.
going on? And and I think that's important, you know, like celebrities get to do it all the time. Why can't we do this? You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
and
I hope I
I'm glad.
answered your questions. I tried to answer as honestly as possible.
Oh
I
no,
hope
and I
that you
appreciate
got the answers you were
that.
looking for.
Oh no, I appreciate that. Like I always believe in, hey, there's no right or wrong answer. This is your story.
Right.
And again, like so much respect for you. Thank you for coming in my life to think like we interacted from just you asking, hey, how can I be a feature? And then here we are doing a part two. And again, we talked about the preparation for the book, and now here we are, like the actual book is out. So this is an accomplishment.
How awesome is
Not everybody can
that?
do this. Yeah. Not everybody can do this. Like I don't care what anybody says. Not everybody can do what you did, you know, because I could write whatever, but this is your heart, your soul. This is your pretty much
Right.
everything that was like so heavy in your heart released. And now anyone that reads this, again, they get to experience this with you as well.
Mhm.
So again, thank you so much for this.
No,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
being, yeah.
The other thing
Thank
I always like to point out is like, look how thick that thing is. That's not a 100-page book.
you.
That's a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is 424 pages.
Of poetry. Come on.
Come on. Yeah. Dude, Walt Whitman wrote a book big like this too. So there you go. You're in that same
Yep.
category as Walt Whitman.
I mean, yeah, great company, right?
But man, thank you so much for this. Thank you for pretty much ending season 9 with a bang, because this is really what this was. Guys, if you are just joining us or you're watching the replay, be sure to check out Rome's book. It is on Amazon. Definitely check it out. This is definitely something you want to read. I haven't finished reading it yet. I'm still in the middle of reading it along with other books I'm reading. But this is such a good book. And again, you won't regret it. I really believe in that. You will not regret this. I even have the digital version as well, so I have both. So
Awesome.
Rome, thank you so much. I guess I'll ask this: when you're not here anymore, what would you like to be remembered for, as far as your art or as a person, whatever that is? Like, what would that look like for you?
I'd like to be remembered as a great father, a God-fearing person, and just a good person. That's it.
Amen.
Like I said, through writing Emmanuel's Garden, I've developed a new relationship with God. My faith is renewed, my faith is restored, and it's all by writing. You know, whereas the first book I beat myself to hell, the second book I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm becoming a better person.
Amen.
So
Amen to that. Yeah, I can't wait for the second book to come out for sure. Like I said, like I have all these digital ones, but now I'm getting like the physical ones too. I feel like something about the physical, so I'm
yeah,
still increasing my collection of book, and I'm glad to have this book as part of it. So thank you so much.
now I can't
Thank
wait till you.
everybody
I
for
can't wait till you get through it. I want to hear what you think.
yeah, yeah. It's I gotta say, and that's why like when I asked you about poetic suicide, I had to ask you about that because that's really what I'm up to right now, and I thought I had to ask.